But we are joined by friend of the show, Paul Bloss, who was nice enough to send us some photos today. He is at Royal Troon at the Open Championship as they battle for the Claret Jug. And Paul, I said this on the show yesterday. Thank you for doing this, because it's great to get some boots on the ground and some ideas about how it is. I'll just ask you this. If the weather was like it is the last 2 days in Scotland and you had a tee time, would you keep that tee time? Yes. You would?
Yeah, because I can't play good golf anyway, so it doesn't matter.
At least you'd have an excuse this time.
Yeah, sure. I think the real question might be, would you have a tee time tomorrow when it's supposed to be windy and raining starting in the afternoon? It's supposed to be really dreadful tomorrow.
So, before we get into the nuts and bolts of the tournament and who's doing well and what you've seen, what are, just standing there, what are the conditions like? How can you describe how, especially if you're walking into that wind, and really the wind is not really helping you, whether it's at your back or in your face, when it's like this, is it?
Well, not really, but how the tournament's set up, you have plenty of, they have grandstands that break it for the fans, I think. It's really just bad when I think for the players, when they don't have the windbreak or anything. But, it started out, the day was about 15 to 20 miles per hour. And by the end of the day, it was 25 to 37 miles per hour. And, we're not talking about gusts. We're talking about continual. That was the continual was over 20. And, it really affected the play. But, that's kind of what you expect from the British Open. We haven't really seen that. A few years ago at St. Andrews, it was perfect weather. And, the scores showed it. It was like, I forget what the final score was, 23 under or something. And really, the course wasn't defended by anything, but the weather was what makes the British Open so special. I realize I'm pretty old, because I remember watching the British Open on black and white on Saturdays on Wide World of Sports, and you get the tape delay, and all you'd see would be Palmer and Nicklaus and stuff fighting it out in driving rainstorms.
Paul, so far, and again, there's guys who went off in the morning the last 2 days that it's almost like they didn't have a chance because of how bad it was. So I hope their self-esteem doesn't get fractured, because, they're the best of the best, and they got eaten alive. But for the guys, who worked their way through it and made it to the weekend, what was the biggest surprise to you?
The biggest surprise, I think, was Billy Horschel. I think it's at 2 under. I would have never expected that. The other surprise was that Rory didn't make the cut.
Yeah.
And if you look at the cut and all the players that missed the cut, you have Victor Hovland. It's a who's who of golf. Victor Hovland, Rory, the Shambo, you just name it, and Tony Finau. You can just go down the list, and it's both sides. Both the DP world and the Europeans got hit that way, as well as the American side. The ones that did well, though, are the ones that do know how to play and win. The Texan, it's funny. I was listening to a BBC radio show about the Open coming back from the site tonight, and they referred to Scotty Scheffler. They said, well, we think that he should be known as the Shark, because he's lurking in the water no matter what tournament you're at. And they said, even though he's behind Shane right now, they said he's just out there lurking, and you just know that he's ready to strike at any time. But I think that...
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Shane, the top three of the tournament are Shane Lowry, an Irishman, Justin Rose, an Englishman, and Daniel Brown, an Englishman. So that's probably not all that surprising, right?
Well, no, and this somewhat, because you usually have somebody from the U.S. side up there within the top 3 to 4, I guess. But, I think that what you see, though, is Daniel Brown, he's not a well-known name. I mean, not that that should count, but I do think that when you see Shane and Justin, those guys know how to play those type courses. And then you have Scheffler, who can play any course. I mean, the guy is unbelievable. And, I would say that most of the people that have been watching the tournament, they're really aware of Scheffler. And most of them think, at dinner tonight, around the dinner talk was everybody thought, well, Scheffler somehow is going to catch up with Shane. But, I would say right now Shane would be the favorite. I mean, he knows how to play these courses. He came in 2 weeks in advance because he plays out of Ireland, and he knew the wind was different at Royal Troon. And so he was here for 2 weeks prior to the tournament, practicing just so he could learn the wind. I think one of the great stories, though, was you really had two tournaments. You had the top, and then you had the people that were just trying to make the cut. Like Max Homa made it on his last hole. I mean, he sunk about 25-foot putt to be able to make the cut. And I think he showed more emotion in that than I've seen him in when he's won a tournament. And so you had those people down below. You had like Robert McIntyre, who won the Scottish Open. He barely made it in. And, he's a great story. Last week he wins the Scottish Open, and then he makes history at the British Open by not showing up for his media appearance. And so they asked him why that happened, and he told the RNA that he was hungover from celebrating the victory at the Scottish Open, and that's why he didn't make it. They gave him a pass.
like a true Scotsman. Absolutely.
That's right. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you mentioned the conditions in the afternoon tomorrow. Well, that's when the leaders, right, will be teeing off.
Right.
So
right.
Could moving day work in reverse tomorrow?
It could, but they're still saying they believe the wind will be about the same as it was this morning. And, I think people probably should get used to how to do that, I guess, and they'll make adjustments. But, they could not really go directly at the pin. They were playing against the wind, so if the wind let up, then they didn't get the carry they needed and everything. But, I think half of the British Open, at least to me, is that it's a different type tournament. You have people from all around the world competing, but you also have people from all around the world showing up. And it's just people that really love golf. And it's amazing. Here in a world where everybody's polarized, there is something when you're at this tournament. No one talks about politics or anything. They just all talk about golf. It's really great. And you just find the people just very enjoyable. I was on an elevator this morning coming down. There was a person from the Philippines, Japan, and then South Africa. And they were together, and they asked me, they said they all had country club hats on. And they asked me what country club Baylor was at, because I was wearing a Baylor university hat. And I started laughing. I said, it's not a country club. I said, it's a university. I said, I don't belong to a country club. And they just started laughing. And they said, where is that from? They said, you don't have an accent like you're from Scotland. And I said, no, I'm from Texas. And they just started laughing. And then they started, and then they immediately started talking about Scheffler and Spieth.
Yeah.
So, there's some universality, in terms of how people treat things. And I find that at the British Open especially. It is a unique tournament. I've never been to a Super Bowl, but in terms of, I've been to a lot of other big events, sporting events. And I have to say that this event is really so unique, and I think it's so wonderful to go to.
Well, Paul,
people are nice.
Let's make a deal. I'll try to get you to a Super Bowl if you can try to get us to an Open.
Well, that's really funny because I was thinking that you would have at least had 365 media credentials for it. But apparently you forgot to do that. I just can't believe Smoke didn't do that.
Look, if Royal Troon gave us some before the SEC would, that would be something else. Because they didn't. I'm gonna keep on that until they know. But
well, I did hear from you that you all got kind of blown apart in your picks with Bolton, right?
It's okay. So, our game, Paul, is we draft 4 golfers.
Yeah, I listen to your pick. I listen to the pick.
If anybody misses the cut, then you're out. Well,
you're out.
We will not have a champion because we all had people who missed the cut.
Well, I'm actually part of Bolton's fantasy league.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And there's about 20,000 people in that. And this year, coming into this tournament, I was 60th on that list. I was 60th rated.
Yeah.
And I got blown to shreds from this. I mean, I lost 3 of my 6 players.
So So if we had to name a champion based on who had the least missed cuts, it would be Emery, because he had Oberg, and that was it. He had Aaron Ryan, Noren, and Xander, and those guys all made the cut. Rob had Morikawa and Hovland, both missed the cut. I had Fleetwood and Tigala, they both missed the cut. Smokey had Bryson DeChambeau and Tony Finau, both missed the cut. So that's where we are. It was not good as a short term. That was near tragic as a draft goes.
Well, there's a lot of cuts for this tournament. I mean, it was pretty brutal.
Yeah,
I think that it's going to be a great finish, though. I would still think Scheffler would be a favorite, percentage wise. But I think Shane Lowry's really going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, I mean
I think Justin Rose too.
Yeah, he's always just he doesn't seem to change much. Justin Rose, does he? Like, he's just kind of always
no.
He's just kind of always, especially in this event, he's just kind of always there, and hanging around in that last day. Paul, what is Royal Troon is. I mean, you're in the birthplace of golf in Scotland, which has to I know it wasn't the technical birthplace, but when I was at Allen Fieldhouse, you felt the early part, this is where basketball started to become basketball in Kansas. What is the feeling like where you walking around at Royal Troon in Scotland where you're like, man, this is where golf kind of started?
Well, I really felt that way at St. Andrews when I was there 2 years ago. I mean, that was really special. Here, you just kind of remember the other matches that you've seen on television and everything that's come from there. And, the course is right up against the Irish Sea. I mean, you just can't help but just say, man, you're so lucky. I mean, you're just blessed to be there. And it's just really a special spot. And I think that, golf is taken so seriously in Scotland area as well as Great Britain. But I just think it's really special. I mean, the people are very nice. They're always very helpful. And they like to share it with the world. I mean, they're just very happy, when I get to the hotel and seeing it, that people say, you came all the way over here to see this. Why? And I said, because I think it's so special. And they said, well, we think it's that. We're just so happy that, others feel the same way.
Well, yeah, my answer.
But it's a great event.
Yeah. My answer would be why not? If you can't, I mean,
yeah.
That's certainly, it's one of those. Going to an Open Championship is certainly on my sports bucket list. I've got to do a great many things, but I've not been to a major, and I certainly, that might be the one I want to go to the most, just because I've always wanted to go over there. No offense to Augusta, but just one of those, because again, it almost feels when you watch the Open that you're watching them play the same sport but totally differently. Right,
exactly.
It's if it was a level on a video game, it would be the one where you're like, man, I got to go through this a couple times before I get through it, because this is not the same as everything else I've done.
And when you think about the Open and the way the Open thinks about itself as well, they really think that the importance of the tournament has been elevated, and they really tie that more to Arnold Palmer, reintroducing the Open to the American public. I mean, Palmer's a legend over here as well as Lee Trevino. I mean, Trevino is big time over here.
Oh, we've had him on the show a couple times. Solid gold interview, by the way, Lee Trevino.
Yeah. They've been fantastic interviews.
Yeah. I need to get him to tell the story about how he won a golf bet or lost a golf bet to a guy, and the guy was such a jerk about it, he paid him off in $5,000 worth of pennies.
Well, he's a unique individual. I mean, there's no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul, enjoy the next couple days in Scotland, and I can't wait to see you and catch up during football season.
You betcha.
All right.
Go Bears.
That's Paul Bloss. live from Scotland here with us on 365 Sports. Man, that was really interesting and really good.